Welcome back. You're still with me right here on Finweek Money Matters. While many people believe that they have to take out a life cover in an event of a death, did you know that you may fall under the group of individuals who do not need to take out life cover? In studio with us to discuss this, we will be joined in just a little while. We'll have Schalk Malan, he's the Executive Director at BrightRock, and we'll have Vickie Lange from Alexander Forbes. But in Cape Town right now, we have Bruce Fleming. He's a certified financial planner. He'll be able to break down some of those issues in the meantime. Bruce, is it true? Are there really some people who fall into the category that they don't need to take out life cover?
Yes, hi to me, sir. Sure, there are. Typically life cover is a grudge purchase as it is. But people certainly that are a lot younger, that don't have debt, they don't have dependents that they might have to look after should they die. Typically, those are the people that don't really need life cover. And then obviously people that have built up sufficient liquidity in their portfolios, that should something happen to them, their loved ones will be taken care of after their death, and the certain liabilities and estate expenses will be paid for from those assets.
In studio with me, as mentioned, I am now joined by Schalk and Vickie. Thank you so much. Schalk, let me start with you. Bruce was talking about that there is a certain category of people that don't necessarily need to take out life cover. But then you do get people that do. But, it's a grudge purchase. If I'm heavily indebted, this is not going to be something that I'm going to rush out and buy. So what is the investment point or the argument point for somebody to go ahead and do this?
Hi. I think in terms of the point of buying life insurance, we always go back to say, if you look at what's your biggest asset for the man on the street, that's typically your income, your ability to generate an income, a future income. And in other words, you are your family's biggest asset, and you want to protect that. So a main reason for buying life insurance is if something would happen to you, for example, if you would pass away or you suffer a serious injury or illness, you want to make sure as a fundamental starting point that your future income is there for your dependents to care for them, or in the case when you're disabled, to also take care of them. So I think that starts, and then I think you always want to protect your assets as well, and that extends all the way through your income brackets in terms of people, because even if you're quite a wealthy person, you would still want to make sure that if there are additional costs, so for example, if you suffer from a serious injury or illness, you don't necessarily want to tap into your asset base. It's then great, and it's a very cost-effective way to have life insurance that would pay for those critical illness events and help and assist you in covering those costs. So our view at BrightRock is that there's various needs depending on you as a client, but those needs are definitely there, and it also grows as you have new change moments in your life. As you get new debt, incur new debt, as that new child comes into your family, you'll get your first salary increase. Those are change moments, and you want to make sure that your product actually, you have life cover to protect that.
Vickie, let's bring you into the conversation. I'm not endorsing any particular product, but in my mind there's always this ad that comes up saying how much is enough. So I think that's a key question. If you're putting away money, this is supposed to be life cover. As Schalk says, you want to protect your family. How do you know how much you need to put away?
Yeah, so that's quite a challenging question to actually answer. At the end of the day, everyone is different. You have different personal circumstances, and so it's difficult to just give you a rule of thumb out there. But I think the biggest factors that you need to look at is your level of debt, your dependency status. So a big factor, for example, is your spouse actually working or not, because that will determine, have a big impact on the level of cover that you need to look at. Also, people often forget in your retirement fund you've accumulated a certain amount of savings, and that's available as a pot of money to distribute to your legal and financial dependents should you pass away. So sometimes people quite often actually forget about the accumulated savings that they have in their funds.
Bruce, let's come back to you in Cape Town. The products that are on the market at the moment, do you need a lot of different products to cover all these needs? Are we finding that in the market right now there is one product that will be able to cater to this?
Yeah, I think you don't need to make it overly complicated. Life cover is life cover. And so if you've got one life cover or sufficient life cover to cover things like your debts, your liabilities, capitalize your income, as Schalk said earlier. You capitalize your income for however long you need your income to last. You can wrap that all in one bit of life cover. To have 4 or 5 different life covers, I think it's not necessary.
Schalk, you're nodding there.
Yeah, I think I can maybe add to that, or a slightly different view as well. Perhaps is that once you know, in terms of looking at a client and understanding and unpacking the reasons for buying that life cover, it's critical to unpack what are the reasons for having bought that life cover. If you look at those, for example, debt, income, your children's education, and the thing that we found at BrightRock in our research is that each one of those needs perform very differently. So, for example, your debt would run a shorter duration. That's, for example, something that you need to cover your state duty, or your income needs are much longer than your debt as well, or even for your children's education, it is also a very different shape and duration. And what we've actually designed is a product that really looks at your various needs and then allocate your premium and your cover to those specific needs. And the result of that is a more efficient, more effective product, as opposed to grouping everything together. And I think a great analogy is like that, you know, buying the CD where you like two or three songs, as opposed to buying those iTunes where you're actually buying what you need, as opposed to buying the bulk thing and you only actually like 2 songs out of that CD. And I agree with, you don't want to overcomplicate things, but there are product platforms now available that actually allows you as the client to actually choose what you want, just pay for that what you want, get a much more cost-effective solution in place. And the result of that is probably the ability to get closer to what you need in terms of your insurance requirements. Because a big problem that we have in South Africa is what we call an insurance gap. You know, just to give you an idea, I wrote some stats down. You know, if you look at just death cover on its own, and that's in 2013, we're sitting at an insurance gap of over 15 trillion rand. And that just goes to show that there's a massive gap, and you know, we should ask, how can we assist clients and consumers to fill that gap through education, through products that matches those needs more accurately.
Yeah, Vickie, do you have anything to add in terms of that insurance gap? I must tell you, I find it a lot like unit trust. There are just so many of these available. There are regulations that are going to be coming in that are supposed to streamline this and make it easier. Your comments on this, and also I just want to know, how often should you be updating your life cover?
All right, so I mean, your life cover, really, you should be looking at that on quite a regular basis, especially if there are big changes in your life. If you're getting married, divorced, having children, you need to reassess that. So any big life events, definitely. Probably at least on an annual basis, though, you need to be looking at the level of cover and see if it's still adequate or not. Just from the group insurance perspective, we're finding that more tailored products that can better suit the actual needs of individuals, that's starting to become a bit more of a focus. So quite often your employer would provide a base level of cover, and sometimes, depending on the amount of flexibility they allow in that, individuals are allowed to increase their cover or decrease it depending on their unique personal circumstances.
Before I go to Bruce, who's waiting for us in Cape Town, Vickie, I just want to follow up on that. Is it easier or is it better to take out life cover on your own or through an employer or a company?
Again, it actually really depends on your personal circumstances. So typically in your group schemes, you have cross-subsidization that happens between health status, age, as well as salary levels. So, based on that mechanism of cross-subsidization, it's either going to work in your favor or not, depending on where you sit in that membership. So if you're, for example, a very healthy life, and you were to go and get quotes in the market for individual cover, you may find that it is potentially cheaper than actually taking on the group insurance. But like I said, it can either work in your favor or against. It just depends on your circumstances at a particular point in time.
Bruce, let's come back to you. You are a certified financial planner. Schalk was talking about this insurance gap that we have, and there's a lot of regulations still around the financial services industry. Maybe your thoughts. What has been your experiences of all the changes that are currently taking place?
Well, I think it can only be a good thing. With RDR coming in, I think it's going to change the industry quite significantly. Already we see in the investment space, people starting to take fees as opposed to upfront commissions. The FSB haven't spoken yet about fees on, or as and when fees on life cover. But if we look at the trends around the world, I guess that's probably where we're going to be going. And you're going to be finding that certified financial planners specifically who give a professional service are going to be more fee-based going forward. And I think RDR is going to assist in that quite a lot.
Definitely that's a shake-up. Just need to get some of your closing comments from you. I wanted to know, what is the ideal structure of life cover? I know it's hard and it depends on person to person, but is there any sort of formula that, 30% on this, 10% on that, or is that really not something that you put in place?
If I can be as bold as to say, I think this, if you do one key thing to start with to get your plan in place, is to make sure that your income, for your family, to protect your dependents, for yourself as well if you become disabled, try and optimize and cover as much of that as possible. And from there on, you can look at other more specific items like your debt and your education costs. But if you cover that with an appropriate product with enough flexibility, I think you're on the right track.
Vickie, just closing comment from you.
Yeah, so nothing major to add to that, except to just be cognizant of what your employer already offers you. You might not have to go and buy as much extra cover as you maybe thought, so be cognizant of what you've already saved up in your retirement fund, together with any life insurance that the employer has taken out on your behalf anyway.
Well, thank you so much to my guests, and that's all for this week's edition of Finweek Money Matters.